Your heart stops. Not gradually, not dramatically. One moment it's beating normally, and the next, there's nothing. That is second zero. And what happens during the next 60 seconds may be far stranger than you think. Because when your heart stops, your body begins shutting down almost immediately. But your brain may not go quietly. In fact, for a brief moment, it may do the exact opposite. It may become more active. Let's go back to the very beginning. Second zero. Your heart has stopped pumping, which means blood is no longer circulating normally through your body. Your blood pressure collapses. The oxygen-rich blood that was reaching your brain just moments earlier is no longer being delivered. But there's something important happening here. Your brain doesn't instantly realize that you're dying. For several seconds, it still has access to oxygen that was already inside your bloodstream. Your neurons continue firing. Your brain is still processing information. And depending on exactly what is happening, your final conscious thoughts may still be occurring. You could still be thinking, still hearing, still experiencing the world. You haven't simply switched off, but that window is closing. Fast. Around the first 10 seconds, the brain begins running out of usable oxygen. The cerebral cortex, the region heavily involved in conscious awareness, perception, and higher thinking, begins losing function. Your vision can disappear. Your ability to process sounds fades. Consciousness usually follows. From the outside, you may appear completely unresponsive. But here's where the story gets fascinating. Because researchers have found evidence that the brain may produce a surprising burst of activity during the process of dying. In 2023, neuroscientist Jimo Borjigan and her team at the University of Michigan examined brain activity in 4 patients who were dying after life support was withdrawn. The researchers expected the brain to gradually become quieter. Instead, in 2 patients, something remarkable happened. After oxygen levels dropped, the researchers detected a sudden surge of highly organized brain activity, including gamma waves. Gamma activity is associated with processes such as perception, memory, attention, and conscious information processing. And this wasn't simply random electrical noise. The activity appeared concentrated in areas involved in visual processing and regions previously associated with conscious experiences. One of the researchers described the intensity of the activity as remarkably high. And that raises an incredible question. Could the dying brain be doing something during its final moments that we haven't fully understood yet? We don't know. But the timing is intriguing. Because people who have survived cardiac arrest have been reporting unusual experiences for decades. Bright lights, a feeling of moving outside the body, an overwhelming sense of peace, and sometimes a review of their life. You've probably heard the expression, your life flashes before your eyes. But some survivors describe something much more complicated. They don't necessarily remember only the biggest moments. They describe ordinary moments, a childhood memory, a conversation, a room, a person they haven't thought about in decades. Tiny details that seemed completely insignificant at the time. And that's where things get even stranger. There are documented reports of people recovering from cardiac arrest and describing memories they believed they shouldn't have been able to access. But we have to be careful here. These experiences are real reports from survivors. They do not prove that consciousness continues after death. Scientists are still debating exactly what causes them. The brain may be reconstructing memories during extreme physiological stress. It may be producing vivid internal experiences. Or there may be mechanisms we simply haven't discovered yet. And that's what makes this subject so fascinating. Because while the brain is doing all of this, the rest of the body is rapidly losing its ability to function. By around 30 seconds, oxygen delivery throughout the body has essentially collapsed. Your cells are desperate for energy. Normally, they rely heavily on oxygen to produce that energy. Without it, they begin switching to emergency pathways. Those pathways can keep cells functioning temporarily, but they come with a price. Acidic waste products begin accumulating. Cellular chemistry starts changing. muscles lose their normal neurological control, and the body begins to relax. If the person was standing, they would already have collapsed. The jaw can fall open. The eyelids can relax. The pupils can become fixed and enlarged. From the outside, the body appears completely still. But inside, the microscopic battle is just beginning. Your cells haven't instantly died. They're running out of options. And this distinction is incredibly important. But it does suggest that the relationship between brain activity and conscious experience may be more complicated than we once believed. And there's another recurring feature in these accounts. People sometimes describe encountering someone they recognize, a parent, a grandparent, a friend who has died. Sometimes they describe being told that they aren't ready to leave. Science doesn't currently have a definitive explanation for these experiences. They could result from memory, emotion, neurological activity, or some combination of factors we don't yet understand. But one thing appears again and again in survivor stories. The experience is often described as peaceful, not terrifying, not painful, peaceful. Now, we're approaching the 1-minute mark.
And this is where the biological clock becomes brutally important. At roughly 60 seconds, your cells are under severe stress, but many are still structurally intact. The damage hasn't necessarily become permanent yet. Your body temperature hasn't dramatically fallen. Your tissues haven't simply disappeared. Your cells are still there, waiting for oxygen. If blood flow can be restored soon enough, some of that damage can be prevented or reversed. But if circulation doesn't return, the situation changes minute by minute. As oxygen deprivation continues, cellular membranes begin breaking down. Enzymes escape from the compartments that normally contain them. And eventually, your own cells begin participating in their destruction, a process called autolysis, essentially self-digestion. But at 1 minute, you're still near the beginning of that process, which means something extraordinary has happened. Your heart has stopped. Your body is shutting down. Yet many of your cells are still alive.
And your brain may have experienced one final burst of organized activity. So what does that final minute actually mean? Medically, it means there may still be a chance for CPR, a chance for a defibrillator, a chance for circulation to return, a chance for the brain to receive oxygen again. But there's another way to look at it. Because eventually, every person reaches a point where there is no next minute. And perhaps that's why the stories of people who survive cardiac arrest are so powerful. They often don't return obsessed with money or status or possessions. They talk about time. Time with their families, time with their children, time spent actually being present. Because maybe the strangest thing about life isn't that it eventually ends. It's that while we're living it, we rarely notice the moments that may matter most. Not the huge achievements, not the awards, not the expensive things, but the ordinary stuff. A random afternoon, a conversation you almost forgot, someone laughing in the next room, a childhood memory you haven't visited in years, a completely normal Tuesday that felt like nothing special, until suddenly it wasn't normal anymore. We don't know exactly what the brain experiences during its final moments. We don't know whether the reported flashes of memory are the brain's final attempt to make sense of itself, or something we haven't learned how to explain yet. But one thing is certain. Every second you have right now is a second someone else would give anything to have back. So don't wait for your final minute to realize how valuable the ordinary ones were. Because maybe those ordinary moments were the important ones all along. And that's all. If you enjoyed it, leave a comment and subscribe to the channel.